They say people don't change after 50. I used to believe that too. Until life decided to prove me wrong. One broken window, one angry neighbor, and one little girl at a time. My name's Jack Weller, and I used to sell houses for a living, back when I still cared about things like closing costs and square footage. These days, I just sit on the porch of my faded blue house on Maple Street in upstate New York, drinking cold coffee and arguing with the squirrels. At 62, I've become what people politely call a character. You know, the cranky old man on the block who yells about trash cans being left out too long. Yeah, that's me. The one who keeps the blinds half closed so no one gets the idea to check in. The thing is, I wasn't always like this. Once, I was the guy with the clean haircut, pressed suit, and the winning smile. Jack Weller, the man who could sell anything to anyone at any time. A man who thought he was untouchable. And then I lost everything. It started when my wife, Caroline, passed away. Cancer. Quick, merciless, and quiet in all the wrong ways. 1 month she was teaching second graders, baking banana bread, and humming while she graded papers. 3 months later, I was staring at an empty chair across the breakfast table, wondering how someone could vanish from the world but still fill every inch of it. I sold the big house, retired early, and moved to a smaller town thinking a new zip code might mean a new start. Spoiler, it didn't. I became bitter. No, not just bitter. I became mean. Mean to neighbors who smiled too easily. Mean to grocery store clerks who tried to chat. Mean to myself for still waking up every morning when she didn't. So when I say I didn't expect life to hand me a second chance, I mean it. It started one afternoon last spring. I was fixing the gutter that never stayed fixed when a basketball flew across the hedge and knocked my coffee clean out of my hand. I looked over the fence, ready to explode. On the other side stood a kid, maybe 9, messy curls, wearing a Spider-Man t-shirt 2 sizes too big. "Sorry, mister," he shouted. "Sorry doesn't fix my mug," I barked. He blinked at me, wide-eyed, holding out his hands like I might bite. Then his mother appeared, Maya, mid-30s, wearing paint-splattered jeans and a look of practiced exhaustion. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Weller," I said, cutting her off. "Jack Weller. Maybe teach your kid to aim." Her jaw tightened. "Maybe you could try being nice about it." Then she turned to the boy. "Go apologize properly." He stepped closer, mumbling, "Sorry, Mr. Weller. I'll be more careful." I sighed. "Just keep it out of my yard." They went back inside. I muttered something about kids these days and went back to my gutter. But that night, I couldn't stop thinking about that kid's eyes, wide, sorry, and something else I hadn't seen in a long time, scared. 2 days later, it happened again. Not the basketball. This time, it was their dog. A big golden retriever named Rusty, who apparently believed my lawn was his personal restroom. I marched over there, ready for another argument. But when Maya opened the door, she looked tired. Not annoyed. Not angry. Just tired. "Look," she said before I could speak, "I'm really sorry. It's been a rough week. My babysitter quit, my car broke down, and the school called about another late payment for lunch. I'll clean it up, I promise." Something about the way she said it stopped me cold. I'd prepared for a fight, not an apology that sounded like surrender. I muttered, "Forget it," and turned to leave. But Rusty followed me, tail wagging like we'd been friends for years. Maya laughed, the first time I'd seen her smile. Guess he likes you. Great, I grumbled. Maybe he can start paying rent. She laughed again, and for some reason, that sound stayed with me. Weeks passed. I kept to my porch. She kept to her garden. And somehow, we started talking, first about the weather, then about real things. I learned she worked at the diner down on Main Street, pulling double shifts to keep up with bills. I learned her son's name was Leo, and that he loved drawing superheroes and asking too many questions. And she learned about me, how I used to sell homes, how my wife was gone, how I wasn't as scary as I looked. One evening, she called out from her yard. "Hey, Mr. Weller, you ever teach kids how to build birdhouses?" I nearly laughed out loud. "No," I said. "Why?" "Leo's got a school project. I'm useless with tools." Before I knew it, I was standing in her garage, hammer in hand, teaching Leo how to hold a nail without smashing his thumb. When we finished, Leo grinned. "This is awesome. Mom, can we hang it in our tree?" Maya smiled. "Only if Mr. Weller approves." And I did. That night, for the first time in years, my house didn't feel empty. It's funny how connection sneaks up on you. One day you're cursing at the world for moving on without you, and the next, you're making hot cocoa for a kid who insists you watch his favorite cartoon because you'll love it, promise. Somewhere along the line, Leo started calling me Mr. Jack. And Maya, well, she started showing up with coffee. Real coffee, not the instant garbage I made. We'd talk on the porch before her shift, watching the neighborhood wake up. One morning she said, "You know, for someone who claims to hate people, you're pretty good with them." I told her, "Don't ruin my reputation." She laughed, and I caught myself smiling back before I could stop it. Then came the call. Her ex, Leo's father, wanted custody. Not because he cared, but because Maya was late on payments, and the court saw instability. I'd seen men like him my whole career, flashy, smooth talkers who believed money was a substitute for love. Maya was terrified. "I can't afford a lawyer," she said. "If I lose him—" Her voice broke, and I felt something I hadn't in years, anger, but the kind that came from caring. So I did what I do best. I made a plan. I called an old contact, Nancy, a real estate attorney I used to work with. Told her the situation, begged for help. Nancy agreed to meet Maya pro bono. We gathered documents, letters from neighbors, school reports, everything that showed Maya was the backbone of that kid's life. I even wrote a statement myself. It was the first time I'd used words like love, home, and family in a long, long time. The hearing took weeks to prepare for. Every evening, after dinner, Leo would sit on my porch drawing superheroes while Maya and I went over paperwork. She'd thank me every night, and I'd say, "Don't thank me yet." But inside, I already knew, I wasn't doing this for thanks. I was doing it because it felt right. The day of the hearing, I drove them to court. Sat in the back row like some awkward guardian angel in a thrift store suit. When the judge asked who could vouch for Maya's stability, I stood. My voice cracked halfway through, but I didn't care. I told the court about the woman who worked 2 jobs and still found time to read her son bedtime stories. I told them about the boy who built a birdhouse and waited every morning to see if the birds came back. And I told them about a man who'd forgotten what kindness looked like until they moved next door. The room went quiet. The judge nodded. A week later, the custody ruling came in. Maya kept full custody. She cried when she read the letter. So did I, though I pretended I had allergies. After that, things changed. The house that once echoed with silence now buzzed with laughter and barking and the occasional Mr. Jack, "Can you fix this?" Maya started college classes online, studying business management. Leo called me his honorary grandpa. I started to live again. But here's the thing about second chances. They don't erase the past. They just make peace with it. Last winter, I drove to the cemetery for the first time in years. Caroline's grave looked just the same, simple, neat, with that tiny angel ornament she used to like. I stood there a long time before saying anything. "Hey, Care," I finally whispered. "I think you'd like them. Maya and Leo. Good people. Loud but good." I laughed softly. "You always said I'd turn into a grump if left alone too long. Guess you were right. But I'm trying. You'd be proud." A gust of cold wind swept through the trees, and for a second I could have sworn I heard her laugh. Maybe it was just the breeze. Maybe it was something more. By spring, the whole street knew me again, not as the cranky old man, but as Mr. Jack, the guy with the best hot chocolate in town. Maya's diner started booming, thanks to her new business plan. Leo got into the magnet art program he'd dreamed of. And me. I started volunteering at the community center, teaching kids how to build birdhouses, just like that first one Leo made. Funny how one small act can rebuild an entire life. Sometimes Maya still teases me. "You're practically family now," she says. I joke back, "Does that mean I get invited to Thanksgiving?" And every year, she says the same thing. "You bring the pie, and you're in." Now, I sit on this porch, the same porch that used to feel like a fortress. But it's not lonely anymore. Rusty snores at my feet. Leo's laughter drifts from next door. And Maya's voice carries through the evening air, calling them both in for dinner. It's quiet, peaceful, imperfect, everything life's supposed to be. I never remarried. Never planned to. But love still found its way here, in a different shape, at a different time. Because sometimes, the universe doesn't give you what you lost. It gives you something new to care about. And so it goes.